Hello to everybody who's in that call today. I slightly was going through the attendees list, so pretty impressive list of attendees here, and yeah, hopefully I take you on an interesting journey that we have gone through at Bertelsmann over the last 7 years now. Of course, with focus on learning, as this is the main topic focus of our today's event here. So a little intro on the different topics that I would like to share with you. First of all, small introduction of Bertelsmann itself as a company group, and then I'll take you on the journey. The first piece will be about the implementation journey that we started in 2013/14. Starting with the learning module, that was the beginning of the entire HRIT transformation case with SAP SuccessFactors. Let me tell you a little bit about the original target vision that we had and how that also evolved over time pretty significantly in a positive way. So scope increased over time. Then a few words about the digitization of learning and how that went over the years, and some insights on the system adoption of the last year. Also a little bit focusing on the effects that Corona had on the learning topics, and then I'll just share my thoughts on the outlook of the learning system ecosystem that we have currently and how that might evolve over time, and what questions we have in mind at the moment. More questions than answers, to be honest, currently, but I think that's fair to say, and that's pretty fast changing markets. And then of course we have time for any questions and discussions that might come up now or later. So Bertelsmann consists of a group of companies within different business areas. So media, services, education, and investments. And we have a footprint in 50 plus countries, 130,000 employees, headquartered in Germany, Gütersloh. And some products that might be known to you is, for example, the Obama's books. They are published within our Penguin Random House's imprints. RTL Group with the different broadcasting and production units might be well known as well. Maybe also different Avato services on the B2B end. Might also be. So this is Bertelsmann at a glance, and what does it mean for us for the transformation case with SAP SuccessFactors? So 2014, the entire journey started, and the project was ramping up. Scope was defined, and then we started to work on the modules. Back in the days, on the learning module with Sandeep. So this is already the time we worked together. And what we have seen within Bertelsmann is that it's a really old company, so 186 years old. That was the starting point of the first book business in Germany, in Gütersloh. And the culture within the business and also within HR was a very decentralized culture, so that the CEOs of the businesses basically also have control and ownership of the different business processes, also within HR. Bringing that together with 600 individual companies, having as an example here, more than 85 different HR core systems, and no standardized processes on that level in the group, forms a pretty, let's say, challenging environment to implement one global learning platform, and then following also other parts of the suite as well. So that was the starting point, and then the vision that we try to combine with that structure was that we wanted to build one single unified state-of-the-art HR system that all Bertelsmann managers and employees can access and work with. For the beginning, the original scope was about learning, recruiting, and talent management. That expanded significantly over time. So until today, we have big EC cases. We have JAM, we have compensation and benefits in parts, and so on. So that increased over time very, very much. However, we started with learning. We were setting the foundation with the learning module itself. And back in the days, then learning-wise, what we have seen in the companies was a very high number of instructor-led in-house trainings, then participation mainly on external trainings to cover basic skills, a lot of paper-based distribution of guidelines and presentation, and in general, and that's actually the most important point, very low digitization of learning processes. I mean, digitization is always what you then precisely mean. Of course, Excel was in place, and PDF and Word, right? So the entire Outlook suite was in place. And that was how a lot of learning was also organized. But when you think of it as a suite thought with software in the cloud, that was mostly far away from what we had within the different L&D organizations. Not always. We had cases where already L&D software in the cloud was required, so that we had as well. But mostly those L&D processes on an let's say organizational level happened in the Outlook suite or totally offline. And of course, then the actual consumption of learning was mostly offline. So there have only been a few trainings that have been delivered already digitally. So that was the starting point. And then that, of course, evolved over time very, very significantly. So we did two things in parallel happened in the end. The first thing was that we rolled out the platform globally, so for round about 45 countries, and then we had the scope was changing over time. Until today, we have around about 70,000 users within the learning module. So that was happening on the one hand, and then of course on the other end, the content development happened over time very significantly. I think we were one of the first ones who did implement Lynda.com content, today known as the LinkedIn Learning content, a library that we still have, and that is basically building the foundation in our system that's globally available to everybody in multiple languages and very well used and perceived. Added by courses from Creative Life, Coursera, the SAP Learning Hub, LearnShip, to only mention a few of the main vendors that we have integrated in different scenarios. For those ones here who are maybe a little bit more familiar with integrating content, for example, also via OCN, they know that integration does not always mean integration, right? It always depends on the specific case, on what you really integrate and how deep the integration is and what kind of data is flowing. But on the LinkedIn Learning and Creative Life side, we for sure have a deep integration via the OCN. Then very important, and it's also still ongoing, is the deployment of our mobile app. We pushed and we are still pushing the recommendations engine usage, and we will now shortly release the first extension to record external trainings within the platform to also cover that piece of the process, so to say. So both was happening in parallel, and it was also interfering with each other in a positive way. So why the platform has been rolled out, we were able to in the end push these contents into the system, of course always with our sister departments, either on the corporate side or then in the respective departments locally. And this is bringing us basically also to our content strategy and how we have built and shaped the learning module from an architectural side, and what that in the end means for the employee. As you all know, the employee themselves, they have access to the learning portal, and they see basically full one catalog, right, which they can narrow down and then drill into by searching and filtering and so on. But how does that one content mix is how is that put together in our case? So we have a global catalog from Bertelsmann itself, from our sister department, the Bertelsmann University mainly. There we have Coursera, there we have LinkedIn, but also other courses are provided there globally. Then surrounded by compliance courses. Still one of the big cases why we need the platform, because we have access to all employees worldwide, and the distribution and the reporting and everything is running very smoothly. So that's still a very important case, not only on global level, but also then within the divisions or the local companies. There are still a lot of and will always be probably regulations are rather going up than down. There are still a lot of compliance courses that are also very well perceived by the employees, I have to say, that are distributed by the learning module. And then we have our divisions and solution groups. And on that level, also colleagues in central L&D departments take care that relevant content is provided to colleagues in the different businesses and countries. And that's also part of the entire case, is that our around about 500 companies, they do not have all their own L&D department, but let's say globally, without looking it up, I would say we have around about 100 different areas in the world where we have L&D activities happening. And those colleagues, they have all access to the learning administration backend. So we have always between 400 and 500 administrators working in parallel with the system, ensuring that everything is running smoothly for the employees, that content is provided, and that reporting is happening, and so on. So this is kind of the structure. In the end, we always have to always aim to have a very good content mix per employee. That it's a well balanced between compliance courses and so on that need to be taken. But we have also onboarding programs in the systems. We have, as said, LinkedIn Learning and so on as the foundation. Yeah, that's in the end what's aimed for, and what we are looking into. As you all know, then what is really challenging within that stage that we are in, right? We have a lot of content in, right? At the beginning, there was the platform. It was empty. There have only been a few courses. So you brought in all of those courses, and we did the same. And now the learning module is full with courses, full with content. And now the question is, well, especially the content that is consumed actively by the learner, so that it's not pushed to the learning plans, but something they are looking for actively. How do you inspire people to take trainings and to develop skills and just to grow further on certain areas? That's quite a challenge. One of the things we are doing is and what we are pushing is the recommendations engine built in by standard by SAP. But we are also looking into other solutions. On that, I'll give you an update, I think, in 2 slides from here. First, on the adoption end, give you a little bit of insights on how training is consumed. So we are live around about 64,000 employees in 44 countries, around about 2.7 hours of training per employee. The biggest adoption footprint for sure is the EU and US market. This is where we have most of our employees globally. You see a pretty good ratio on the online versus offline training measures. So that's very well, and we see it as a trend here. So that's on trend-wise going up more online than offline. So that's very well. And of course, and here I want to deep dive a little bit. Of course, Corona had a very significant effect here, and basically I have to say we didn't need to do anything when Corona happened, and people needed to go into their home offices, depending, of course, on the job. But large parts of our workforce went into home office mode, and they are until today. And from a learning platform perspective, and that was a huge benefit, we didn't need to do anything. The administrators still had their access, right? They could access totally normally into the platform, and for the learners the same. And then depending on the country, right, also employment went a little bit down. You know, in Germany we have a concept of Kurzarbeit, where people are then spend less hours per month working, but still get paid nearly full. And what do they do with the rest of the time? For example, they can learn and develop themselves further. And that we have seen. And the platform was there, was ready. The content was there, was ready, always updated with the courses. So that was a huge benefit. That we had everything in place. So Corona didn't mean any change or any rush on our end. We just needed to keep the operation stable, and that way we ensured that all our global learners had access to the great content, and that was, besides all of the negative effects we know about Corona, right? Don't want to talk about that piece, but when it comes to learning and consumption and readiness of the platform, everything was there, and that was at least a very, very positive signal to the workforce. Then drinking a sip of water, and then let me talk about our outlook, and then I guess we go into Q&A a little bit. So catching up on where I've been before. So where are we at Bertelsmann with learning and our learning ecosystem? So platform is available, working fine. We see that our employees, we do surveys, right? They're pretty good with the platform, and also with the content. So there's a good way of satisfaction, which is nice to see, but not the reason to stop and don't look into the future and into future developments. And if we look into not necessarily the future on the market, but our future, Bertelsmann future, right? The market is sometimes a little bit more ahead, sometimes not. We see, of course, that the user will get more relevant on a centric level, right? It will get more user centric, right? We see small sparks of that already within our existing SAP LMS, right? For example, the recommendations engine, which puts user data in the focus and then assigns the right trainings based on secondary data. So that we of course have enabled and we push and market and so on. Besides that, we followed and we still follow the trends of the learning experience platform very closely, and we look what's going on there. We also had very intense discussions with Sandeep and team on Blend, which is a great product, I believe, and it is a very relevant topic. However, we see a lot of other changes on the market as well. SAP Insight is doing a lot of interesting developments, whether it be the marketplace, works on for HR, Jam, but also externally, Microsoft Viva. There are some pretty interesting announcements there. So for the moment, we have a lot of question marks in mind that we try to answer over time to see where basically the market is going. Really interesting times where we'll see where we land and where and how we will develop our learning ecosystem further. I believe we have a very good foundation with what is there, and exciting times for the future, and also maybe opportunities for further cases to catch on the topics that you had heard about before. So this is the outlook. Nothing concrete here, more questions than answers. So I'm also here today as an attendee to learn what is going on, and look very much forward also to the next presenters to hear what is going on SAP internally. Yeah, so this is a little insight on Bertelsmann and what happened here learning-wise over the last years. Hopefully some good insights on both ends, on content, but also on the platform side. And now I believe we still have some good chunk of time left to answer any questions and discuss. cannot hear you. Maybe I'm the only one, but maybe not.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now okay?
Loud and clear.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for such a great session. You're absolutely right. We have a little bit of time, and the good news is we've got lots of questions for you. So, and we'll just take them in the order that they came through. If the order doesn't change, hopefully. Let me just get that back up there. Just seen that it's kind of moved a little bit out. So we've got a question around administration. So how do you administer the system? Do people self-assign training, or do you assign training to people?
So we do both. So we have global assignment profiles running. We have divisional assignment profiles running. So there's a lot of automation going on, especially on the compliance and of trainings, but also when it comes to onboarding programs, right? That we also have. Assignment is very important to us and very much needed, but the biggest part, especially number-wise, is consumed then on a pull way, right? Because we have just opened the LinkedIn Learning and Creative Life catalogs. They are open to everybody worldwide, and people here can just pull proactively, or of course. We have linked it to the development plan, right? They do it when they discuss with their managers any development measures for the next period, right? It can also be that the managers then push things to their learning plans, but most of the parts are there. I would say is self-driven.
No,
so we do both, and to get, yeah. So one more thing. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, if we would be in a personal room, hopefully next time it's easier to interact and see. So sorry for interrupting. And we also want to give the local companies, of course, the freedom to do whatever works best for them and for their workforce, right? So from an roles and rights perspective, they can then decide if they push the content to the learning plans, or if they want to leave it fully open to the employee to consume. I believe in an organization with the size of Bertelsmann and the decentralization, the local L&D colleagues, they then in the end know best what is working for their workforce, and that's why we have big roles for them, right? So they can upload e-learnings if they want, if they did the right training, right? And they can work on the assignments and so on. So they have pretty huge freedom, which on the other hand is a downside sometimes on the quality, right? So we need to do a lot of cleanups and checks that the quality of content is right. But on the other hand, it gives them a lot of freedom, and we believe that's the right thing to do in the environment that is operated in within Bertelsmann, right? Because in the end, we want that the employee learns as best and good as possible.
Thanks very much, Mario. So next question on the list is, do you have any internal, do you have both internal and external users? So I suppose that's extended enterprise type users accessing the system, or is it only your employee base?
Short answer, there's no, we don't have externals here. It's only internals. We looked into cases 1 or 2 times, but until now, and I don't see that changing, we have only internals.
That's great. Thanks very much. So next question is around one of the hot topics in learning, I suppose, is do you have any gamification, or do you utilize any type of gamification?
Not really yet. I mean, that's then, what do we do here in the past? That's not really a gamification piece, but there is a standard piece that is turned on. It's actually, I'm missing the exact product name, but it's something like a fitness tracker for learning within the learning module, and that we have turned on, and that is sometimes used by employees, right? If they want to use it, it's standard. It's it's not really gamification, but at least some sort of tracking that can give yourself like a good feeling if you learn a lot and you see that evolving over time, besides just the learning history. For us, that's part of the entire discussion also around the learning experience platform, where of course like motivating people to engage and to learn is a crucial part, because learning experience platforms, they work best if you have self-motivated learners, right? It's not about pushing and forcing or enforcing to do things, but it's all about that you have a motivated learner that is consuming because he has some intrinsic motivations, right? And that motivation needs to be shaped and needs to be developed, and the crucial part of that for a specific piece then of those learners are then those gamification elements to just create a fun element and to like let them engage more. So we don't have anything in here yet, but if I look at let's say the entire feature melting pot of what is needed in a perfect world, gamification would for sure be part of it.
Of course, within the SuccessFactors learning solution itself, we have accomplishments. So if anybody's interested in some gamification, we've got accomplishments within the learning solution. So that's something that you could look at, which is embedded within the learning solution itself. And my goodness, are these questions coming in thick and fast? So I'm trying to read them and the things jumping around, but we'll do our best. So we've got one from one of our manufacturing customers. How do you police the entire system in terms of learning content standards? That's an interesting one, isn't it?
In terms of standards and quality, maybe. So the first like how do people get access on the backend side to the system, right? What kind of level of knowledge and experience do we want to have here? So across the learning module, also across other modules, we like within the rollouts, we trained in person within the projects, right, to also build a network and relationships and to bring people up in speed. But with that, we were kind of building a network of knowledge already in the existing organization. And now, since the module is fully operational, we do it via e-learning training that we self-built. We first of we bought it also by an e-learning company, but then we decided to insource again, and we're still on that insourcing path, which is for us working good. So we have that e-learning that we self-own, that we always update, and that I would say is covering the basic functionalities in a very good manner. In parallel, we expect that test cases are done in one of our test instances that we also control. So we look at that really, and there is a final checkup call with everybody who wants to have access to the system newly after the training has been done, and that way I would say we keep a very good quality of users and knowledge in the system. When it comes to then like one level more sensitive is of course when administrators are able to upload their own e-learnings, right? That's a level more sophisticated, I would say. And here we have an extra training going on, and we have in our team we have one or two very good e-learning colleagues that are very well familiar with also some authoring tools, and they then do after that standard training happened also Q&A calls with the colleagues and advise them. And then we do two more things. Like the first thing is like we do system like cleanup checks, right? So we check certain things on quality to see that things are going good. And then on the other hand, I would say we have a good network, right? And that's also very important to just exchange with the colleagues on the different topics, to keep them updated, to retrain and focus on topics. We just have for another module, but these weeks running like a retraining and focus webinars going on where we then retrain on specific topics. And this is then where all topics come up that are of relevance. And this entire piece is in the end helping to keep the quality kind of on a high level.
That's great. Thank you very much. So we've got a few moments left, so we'll keep going. There's a great one here actually around the use of learning for mobile. So how extensively do you use learning for mobile?
Yeah. So due to the very decentralized structure, we just cannot push like the mobile app to all employees worldwide, because the governance of, let's say, the mobile devices and the IT topics that are coming with that are within the responsibilities of the divisions or the local businesses. So what we can do from a central department, as we don't have ownership on those processes, we are of course with the L&D networks and communities and steering committees and so on that we have, are in close contact with the different colleagues, and we of course market the functionalities, and we turned that on already for lots of business units, but there are still a lot of business units left. That's an ongoing, let's say, adoption topic, right? We're just in contact. We try to market it, and over time, I guess it will get more and more, right? That's what we at least see so far as a trend. And then on the mobile learning side, yeah, I mean, very important on the mobile learning side is that the content that you have is also mobile ready, and that relies on the content that we bring in via be LinkedIn Learning or Creative Live, and maybe even more important, the content that the local colleagues also produce and then upload, and that very much interferes, right? If you don't have content that is mobile ready, then you rather not tend to set up like that mobile app for the end learner to consume. So here, that's an ongoing development. If Bertelsmann would be more centralized, we would probably have a more centralized approach also on the learning content and also on the app and the push of the app, right? But in the decentralized structure that we are operating in, that model works better for us. And I can just say so far we see a positive trend, and I believe that it just takes more time.
No, that's great. Thank you for that. We've got. I'm gonna kind of bring a few questions into one, which is around the administration of the system, which is always a hot topic. And like most organisations, I know at SAP, we've obviously got a few full-time administrators, but a lot of people have part-time administrative access. And so the question is round about your administration process, but also how you keep these administrators up to date so that they know, around the training and development for administrators. Any thoughts of wisdom on that, Mario?
Wisdom I wish I would have, but I can share you what we do, and maybe that inspires. So what we have is, for all our modules, we have Jam communities set up. This Jam communities, the administrators get access once they have successfully done the training. And these Jam communities, and that has been years and years of work, are our only source of communication and content. We don't send mass emails. We don't call people, right? It's only Jam, right? So if there are any release updates, we push it via Jam. If there is any updates that we push into the system, it's Jam, right? If we have new courses from LinkedIn, it's Jam, right? If there's a new content provider, it's Jam. If there's a new how-to document, it's Jam, right? So we do everything via Jam, and we say, please put your notification to immediate, right? So that you also receive it in your inbox, because of course we know that people are not all the time in Jam, right? Maybe some are, but for most people, still the Outlook inbox is the most important piece of communication. And this is how we stay in contact. And here we have two levels. We have one jam group per module for the how we call them the ambassadors, which are operating then with the systems. And we have one level above. We have our so-called expert panel set up per module, where we have designated experts. In learning, it's the owners of the big L&D departments, or the colleagues of them who are then owning the system and process side. And with them, we are also in very close contact in our panels that we have on a quarterly basis for learning. And there we discuss HRIT related L&D topics and keep them updated on what we do. But they also keep us updated, right? Because they're very close to the workforce. They are also very, very experienced, and they know what's going on system-wise on the market. And this is where let's say the discussions then spark on the bigger topics.
Thanks very much, Mario. So I think we've got a couple of minutes left. So we'll kind of bring a couple of questions into one, which is really around content. And could you talk a little bit more about the content creation? And do you have your own content servers, or is it all on SAP's content service? And also, how do you put these into kind of learning paths? I mean, curriculums, programs, I suppose, but you know, what's your view on that? So a kind of multifaceted question there.
Mm-hmm. So on the methodology side, it's I mean, the system is operating on industry standards, right? And on the method side, we have all sorts of tools in our companies that are in use, right? From Adobe to somewhat, right? We ourselves are working with one or two main tools that we do our trainings and so on with, but our administrators are basically free to use the authoring tool they want. Only of course, the standard and the file needs to fit to SAP. But as it is mostly SCORM, it's anyways total standard. Then on the content storage side, yes, we are with SAP. There is a standard content storage service behind that we use from the beginning, and that also did not change over time. So this is what we do there. And now there might have been a side question in addition to it.
Yeah, so I think you've pretty much summarized it. There was another question, because obviously you're like most organizations, you're using off-the-shelf content from various sources. So how do you bring that all together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a chunk of work, I would say. So if it's done by the divisions or the companies, of course they create the content, they upload it, and we are in contact. If they have special campaigns running or they need expert knowledge, then they reach out to us, and then we do a small sprint project on those things. So that's that piece. But of course, on the integration side, that's like you need to have knowledge in the department, which we luckily have. We have our own colleagues who take care about middleware and integration topics and so on, and they luckily manage the integration side, because the ones of you who know that are using LinkedIn Learning integrated via OCN, for example, right? It's just like you need to understand what's going on there, and you need to actively manage the integration also. That it's not that everything is happening automatically. Also, when it comes to other providers, right? Sometimes we also don't have a full integration because it's just not possible. Sometimes the vendors, they just don't want to integrate because it's too much effort and they don't see the benefit and value. They want to have you on their platforms, right? That's all going on. And then you need to see, well, in the end, it's about the learner, and how do we make it as good as possible for the learner. And then we also find, let's say, custom scenarios, right? And then think about, well, then we only create items and then put in hyperlinks, and then you're redirected to another platform. No single sign-on, but well, better than nothing. And then we at least integrate the learning progress and the history, let's say, on a quarterly basis. So I would say it's for sure then case by case perspective that you need to take and see how you find solutions.